Hello everyone, welcome to this Vermintide 2 Brutally Honest review. Now for those of you who played the first game, you understand the first game had some defects to it. I have played enough to fully unlock all of the dwarf classes, all of the elven classes, and I've played a little bit of the witch hunter captain and the mercenary, but not enough to really get a feel for them. I don't really like the bright wizard in all honesty. But, here's what I can say. Having played this with other people, each of these classes has a kind of ranged and melee specialist, and then a unique class. So for the Dwarven Ranger is your ranged specialist. Special enemies drop ammo on death. Literally is his passive ability. The addition of these passive and career skill abilities makes each of the characters truly feel unique. That is to say, not only is your weapon selection and the way the weapons operate going to be unique, but also your ability on the battlefield is going to be unique. In addition to this, everyone has something unique about their ranged class and how it works. This means that you have 15 characters total between 5 actual avatars. Or rather, you have 5 characters for weapon selection, and then 3 classes for each, totaling 15 classes. Different classes are restricted from certain weapons, such as the fact the Dwarven Slayer is the only one who can wield dual axes. The Ironbreaker is the only one who can wield the flamethrower. The Elf, the Handmaiden here, is the only one that can wield not spears, it's something else. I forget what it actually is, because I haven't played the Handmaiden enough to know. But I do know the Shade is the only one who wields the rapid-fire crossbow. The Battle Wizard here has stabs and swords all the way across, but the Pyromancer is the only one who can wield the flaming sword. Or the Unchained is the only one who can wield the flaming sword. Whereas the Bounty Hunter has this very specialist guy who wields the mini Hellblaster volleyball cannon. And the Flagellant, of course, has a flail. The Mercenary uses the halberd. The Hunter can use bows, regular bows, not just crossbows. And the Knight Captain here doesn't really have a unique weapon so much as he just has some really good abilities and an overall amount of stamina. So let's jump in. I've been playing the Elf a lot recently because I kind of like her from the first game. So in addition to this, lots of new weapons, and they do work drastically differently. You have the Elf, for instance, has glaives, dual swords, dual daggers, sword and dagger, and these all work similarly, but there's enough difference in them that you can feel it. Single sword, spear, and two-handed sword. She also has 3 different types of bows. Each one has a different effect. The Hagsbane, for instance, has poison, which does damage over time. The longbow has the zoom-in sniper ability and shield breaking, and the swift bow is just straight-up rapid-fire death. In addition to your standard passive up here, each of the classes has 2 additional passives. In her case, Arrowstorm and Waywatcher's Bow, which gives her increased ammo capacity and doubles the effective range of the weapon, meaning she can snipe. Every class has these, and then you have these massive talent trees that you can respec however you want between missions without paying anything. You just pick out what you want, and each of these does offer a unique advantage and disadvantage, such as here you can increase regeneration, regenerate arrows instead of health, or regenerate for the entire party, but the effect is halved. Crafting-wise, the only disappointment I have is the implementation of the menu system. You have to scroll through this. Like, you really do have to scroll through this from beginning to end. It is not appreciative. The other problem I have is extracting skins does cost scrap, which you only get by scrapping weapons. And there's nothing really to do here with the extra dust you accumulate from scrapping green, orange, and blue weapons other than just use it when you finally want to. Lastly, there is no option to re-roll for a specific trait. You just have to re-roll randomly until you get the trait you want. Cosmetics are just that, purely cosmetic. And there are no in-game purchases for these. There's none of the in-game purchases. Spoils of War we'll talk about at the end of the mission, and I will show you exactly how that works. In the meantime, the next big thing here is mission selection. The missions matter. Instead of doing them as an act spread across a map, they have them set up in this nice little neat bracket here for you to choose from. You pick a mission. These 3 lines lead into a boss fight. Each boss fight having different mechanics and each boss having a different way of murdering you. All of which lead into one final boss fight to end the Vermintide. In addition to this, you can't just unlock these missions on any difficulty and then go back and replay them on whatever difficulty you want. Increasing the difficulty increases the maximum hero power, i.e. the maximum power of the item gained, as well as the XP you gain for leveling up. And each of these difficulties has a minimum amount of requirement to get in. This way you don't have people who are level 1 with no items jumping in to the game. This new mechanic, hero power, encourages you to keep getting more loot, to keep having reasons to play, to keep having reasons to craft. And since you can literally recraft any item, regardless of the reward you get, you're making a small incremental increase towards getting those legendary uniques that you want to have. Hero power increases damage dealt, how many enemies you cleave through with an attack against basic enemies, and the amount that you stagger an opponent when you block them or when you push them off of you with a push block. So, all of this said, the last thing here is heroic deeds. These are like the mission board from before, except for it's a guarantee if you complete the mission. So you get, these alter the mission parameters, and you get a different set of heroic deeds every day with a different set of rewards. In the case of these are giving out general strong boxes for recruit and emperor strong boxes for recruit. So max power level is 100, but the strong box level indicates that you're likely to get rare and unique items. And as you can see, the mission parameter that this one alters, for instance, Deed of Valor. Specials spawn in much higher frequency and in larger numbers. Nurgle's Rot, players take periodic damage over time. Nothing you can do about it. You're just going to take damage as you go. Increases frequency of horde spawning. Lastly, Twitch integration, which is not yet turned on, is great for streamers because it literally has options for players to type something into the chat to vote. As they vote it up, suddenly something happens, whether it gives a player a bomb or a potion, spawns a tank, or throws a horde of enemies at you that are all assassins, is entirely up to your audience. It's a great mechanic for those who are streaming. They're currently looking to make sure that people are actually streaming the game and finding a way to implement it so people can't exploit it. It should be available in 2 weeks, but I really like the fact that they've integrated this. Even your stronghold has uses now. You can come over here, you can grab bombs, you can come down there with Helga and grab potions, but the whole point of the usefulness of this is to see exactly what you're doing. There's a training area. That shows you the exact damage you do with a headshot, with a charge attack, headshot, with a critical, all of it. And it will also show you the damage you're doing against armored targets, so you get a feel for... Okay, that wasn't a lot. That was. So you get a feel for exactly how to use the weapons and what to do with them to inflict real damage. You can also do ranged practice just by moving your character around and practicing aiming, and I am doing terrible at the moment. In addition to this, as you level up, like individual characters, you unlock additional areas around the fort here as kind of a bonus. So like for instance, I've leveled up the dwarf and the elf. I can come into Bardwin the dwarf's quarters, have a look around. I find his book of grudges. I can see his dwarven tar bath. Or like I've leveled up my elf, I can go up here and I can see Carillion's quarters. And I can see that she has some blank portraits here. And as you level up the characters more, these quarters start filling themselves out more and more and more. The start of the game, everyone's quarters is right in here in the center of the room, so you can also see which character's quarters you haven't unlocked yet, because as they move to their quarters, they're removed. Dwarf was up here, Elf was over here. Here's the Soldier. There's where the Inquisitor stays, and the Fire Wizard currently stays there. As you level them, unlocks more stuff. It makes the place nicer. More things are added. And later game, when we have to fight at this fort, because we know that's coming, they have just said that is coming, having all of those unlocked will provide the host with tangible bonuses. Now, all of these changes are a positive for the game. They have clearly listened to their community to build a better game. And I am honestly surprised with how much effort has been put into this. Our options menu has been drastically expanded, including adding those Twitch options for when they unlock that later, as well as UI scaling, change the chat font. You can even turn blood and gore off. You can turn that off. Video options, this is as comprehensive as you would expect for a AAA title. This is an indie dev. And every single option you could think of is available to change. The game is super well optimized. And you'll see that in a minute when I go into a battle. The game is incredibly well optimized, is incredibly well done for making sure that low-end machines can run this. This game will run on Windows XP. We tested that. It'll run on XP still. Perfectly fine. Now, you can wander around and actually go to the places like the Forge or to the training tent to change your equipment talents and cosmetics, or you can just press I and access it, which means you no longer have to roam around looking for something to change up. You can just press I and access all of it. Again, the only thing I have a problem with is they condensed this crafting menu down where there's not like a tab where I can just pick what I want. I have to hit next. It can get a little time consuming. It really can. And again, I have problems with not being able to spend this dust on something else, because I accumulate a lot of it and then I'm sitting here without any scrap to actually make stuff. I would appreciate if you could select to not get dust from items. Now, we're going to play a mission, and I'm going to show you how it works. So, let's get started. I bet you all thought that I was going to actually just record this gameplay footage and not say a damn word. No, I am. So for a start, you have different elite enemies who do take more than one shot, no matter what. You have shielded enemies, as you can see coming at me right now, and that Berserker is an elite. Hey, look, double kill on the elites. The shielded enemies, you have to bash through their stamina before you can hurt them. These Norsemen, I'm going to show you this. Don't die from one hit. You have to either do a power attack or you have to hit him repeatedly. That's a headshot. That's a headshot. Headshots are rewarded, whether they be melee or ranged. Headshots are definitely encouraged and rewarded. As you guys can clearly see, the
Mayflight caravan didn't get very far.
The devs thought about what they were doing here.
Before he can't.
So you can just follow him, tag the enemy, and headshot. So Blightstorm and summon these tornadoes that grab you and like fling you around. Assassins, of course, you know, the annoying assassin, that thing's back. And now you get to see the mini tank.
My disdain alone will fell you.
The Chaos Warrior, the mini tank. Now I'm gonna fire this attack. That's my special attack. It fires really powerful arrows that generally try to headshot, but without a high damage or an armor-piercing weapon, you basically power attack those guys or can't hurt them. The enemy variety has stepped up so much. Like, every single enemy, like the berserkers, you have to stagger them or they just keep swinging at you and can output a ton of damage very quickly. The champions are like storm vermin with no armor, but they take so many more hits to bring down. You can see my health has plummeted because I haven't been actively blocking or dodging. My special does, however, take care of things from time to time.
I died. Return me to
I'm focused on talking because we're having a review. These little cultists are like clan rats, except for they hit harder and have longer reach. There's just so many different aspects that have been added to the game compared to the first game. This is a true sequel. I'm kind of impressed with it. There are the old annoyances of enemies that you have to deal with, but they've added a couple things like more tank enemies. When I say more tank enemies, you all remember the rat ogres, right? Well, now there's a version that is equipped with heavy armor and flamethrowers. There's trolls. There's chaos spawn.
It's a healing drop.
Enemies have shields now, and when storm vermin come up to you with shields, they can be an absolute pain to finally get to stun and kill. I literally use my special just to cleave through that elite. You are also on timers again for when enemies are going to send hordes at you, and when they're going to send tanks and when they're going to send specials, and the timers change based on the difficulty, and you actively have to make sure. Oh god! Yep, that is a storm fiend. That is a rat ogre with flamethrowers. Its weak point is back here on the back. Every one of the tank enemies have these weak points, by the way. A place to hit them to do a decent amount of damage and to tick them off. He's currently mad at me. Somebody please hit him in the weak spot. There he goes. So that little creature on his back is his weak spot. And I just drove my special straight into it, so I'm pretty sure he's going to be pissed at me. The important thing now, though, is to remember that for the tank creatures, you need to kill the ads. Like, so many players will focus on the tank and then get overwhelmed by ad spawns. As you can see, we're slowly grinding it down. There's a health bar. There are a lot of improvements. There are still some things wrong with the game. The game is not fair to you. And what do I mean by that? Some of the random things that will happen to you when you're playing are just unfair. Like, we may encounter 5 tank creatures in a single mission. You may see the entire gambit of 4 plus 1. And you just have to deal with it. That means some missions are destined to lose. It is doing a good job of making this feel like a desperate struggle a little too well, in my opinion.
Villagers get this treatment before on the Oxford coast, but never to see it again.
An elite, well-working together group will get through it. Every time. But groups who rush forward, groups who don't block or dodge or do anything to try to compensate for the incoming damage by preventing it before attacking, will die horrible screaming deaths. Repeatedly. Tomes and grimoires are still a thing. You are encouraged to pick these up because these do increase the odds of getting uncommon, rare, and epic levels of epic loot. We will get to that in a moment when we find one. But as you can see, enemy variety is so much improved. It's not like Left 4 Dead 1 to 2. It's like Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 combine their total enemy variety to equal the number of new foes you have to deal with in this game. And all of them have unique mechanics. I'm about to show you guys. There's a tome. Tomes are well hidden. Grimoires are well hidden and hard to get to.
Over here.
I think I may be only using these.
Can we do no better? That's better.
But yeah, that's what you can come to expect from playing Vermintide 2. I'm not going to make you guys watch me play this whole level. We are going to instead skip to loot. So I will see you guys at the loot screen in a moment. So here we are at the loot screen. As you guys can see, you have a mission complete, a quick play bonus if you just take the quick play. You also have tomes, grimoires to collect, loot dice, and what's called Randall's Gift, which is how well you as an individual player did for that particular mission that increases the rarity of the box you're going to open. You cannot buy these boxes. I must emphasize that there's no way to pay to accelerate your character. You have to play the game and earn it. Loot boxes done right. There's no trading items, none of that. You have to do it. From here, we go to Spoils of War. We select our box. We pop the merchant's box. And inside, drum roll please, there should be 3 icons now. There we go. It randomly generates 3 items. Trinket, bow, sword. These items are based on the character you're currently playing, which means if you want to grab a bunch of boxes and open them on a different character, that different character will get all the items. And it will be for that character. Trinkets are shared across board, whereas weapons are not. For crafting purposes, you just throw them in. I'm throwing in these that I got because they're kind of useless to me at this point because the lowest one I have is 127. And you salvage. And your salvage will generate a list of things that you got from this that you can then use to flat out make a new item. Show you how to do this. Let's make a spear. Tells me I need a weapon part and 10 salvage. Random blue spear. And then if I want to make a trinket, it tells me I need a jewel part. Random blue piece of jewelry. Very nice. If I want to upgrade an item, I have to take an item that I have, throw it in here, and to upgrade to epic is 50, or to upgrade to rare is 30, or to upgrade from common to uncommon is 20. If I want to re-roll, I can re-roll. The problem I have with the re-roll system, again, is that I can't pick what happens. So I throw the spear in, and I just roll and hope. Stamina and attack speed. That's not bad for a spear. Epic items, you throw it in, and I want to re-roll this one anyway. You re-roll, you have to have salvaged an epic item to get the epic dust. And it re-rolls its trait, so now time blocks to reduce stam cost by 100%. And then I throw this sword in here so I can redo it because I don't particularly like what's on it. It never increases hero power though. So the weapon is always the same hero power, it just changes its properties. And so what that means is you still have to play higher difficulties and more of the game to unlock better weapons that don't just change their characteristics under the hood, so to speak. Now, trinkets, really nice. You get a necklace, you get a charm, and you get a trinket. Oftentimes, it's a simple matter of just directly changing out to the new trinket, because there's not much point in keeping the lesser ones unless they have that nice little thing there on it for additional umph. The problem I do have with this system is that I have to unequip an item to craft it. I kind of don't like that, and you could see why. I don't like having to take stuff off to mess with it. I should be able to mess with the stuff that I'm already actively wearing. That would be nice. But there's nothing I can do about that, so oh well. That's pretty much it. There's not a lot more here to really discuss as far as this is the game. You will go through, there's 10 missions currently available. They all lead to a story. Every single mission has randomly generated enemies, randomly generated events, and each of them has multiple paths that randomly generate which path you're going to go down on that particular mission. There are 3 bosses that lead into one final boss. As for example, is against the Elite Storm Vermin. There's one down here against the Elite Chaos Warrior, and there's one up here against the Elite Rat Seer, which all lead to a final showdown. The game is currently live for $30 USD. Now, I've gone over the problems I have with the crafting system. I've gone over the problems with the crafting system. And I've gone over the heroes. The heroes are relatively well balanced. I mean, they all do have a uniqueness to them. Even if you're playing a ranged Inquisitor, it's going to feel different from the ranged Dwarf, who's going to feel different from the ranged Elf. They even took the detail that since the Dwarf is short, there's a level where you're running through wheat fields and you can barely see without jumping if you're playing the Dwarf because the Dwarf is short. The problems I have with the game are the randomness itself. The randomness itself to a mission is going to give you problems. Just flat out. That's because the randomness itself means that you're going to have missions that are just going to be impossible. And that's something you have to deal with. The uniqueness of the enemies, none of them, you have to just experiment and figure out exactly how to kill them. I still don't know how to bring down a chaos spawn relatively easily. It stomps my ass into a mud puddle every time. But the bile troll, avoid its spit. Hit it in the head. When it's down, throw everything you got at it while it tries to regenerate to stop it from regenerating. The rat ogre is a giant meaty tank. It doesn't hit hard compared to the others, but it takes a lot of damage to kill. So kill all the ads. The storm fiend, just stay out of the fire. Plague monks and berserkers are kind of analog to each other, except for when plague monks die, they also expel gas, whereas berserkers just do more damage and are harder to stagger. There's a whole different kind of tier here in which you have basic, elite, and special enemies and tank enemies. And all of them have a different tier. Every tank enemy has a unique effect against the party that you have to deal with. All of the previous enemies have returned. Game is not necessarily for everyone. It does get grindy. It gets very, very grindy. Game also requires that you have an innate interest in doing a first-person melee simulator. That's something you have to want to do. And the game assumes you have an innate interest in doing things at higher and harder difficulties. The game is difficult. Like, flat out, it is difficult and unforgiving. Even on Recruit, if you go in and just play around, you'll die. There is no necessarily easy mode. The easiest mode you're going to get is challenging. And you may spend your first 4 or 5 missions not able to make it through. That's a problem for some people. This is a game not about having a power fantasy. This is a game about a desperate struggle. That you are always on the receiving end of the desperation. You are desperate to get through. You feel a sense of urgency to keep moving and keep moving. The melee combat is much more fluid. It's much more smooth. It has absolute understanding of how it works, why it works that way. You just have to play with it to understand exactly what's going on. They have a built-in tutorial now that everyone must mandatorily play through. So, that's everything I have to say about it. In the meantime, I'll see you guys later. Holy crap, 30 seconds! Here's the previous honest review thing. We've had so many good reviews. Vermintide is awesome. Hit the like button if this review generally helped you. make a decision. The game is $30 USD on Steam right now. It's also 30 euros because of taxes. I don't know why, but that's the only explanation I can come up with. Leave a comment in the comments below. Tell me what you think of Vermintide. And Patreon. That's all I got. Love you guys. Mwah. I'll be streaming from Moonhouse House later. Bye.